I feel like honestly, the slower it is, it's actually a better opportunity for someone who wants to commit a crime. Because then,
Right.
like you said, there's not anyone really around to watch it. There's more opportunity for them. Unfortunately, in our industry, we're a very predictable lifestyle. If you think
Yep.
about it, I mean, my name, my number, my brokerage, everything is
Everywhere.
posted all over the internet.
Yep.
You can find me if you want to find me pretty easy. I feel like as things slow down, I feel like it actually is even a better thing for us as agents, just because we have that, added peace of mind that we're not alone. You may
Yeah.
feel like you're alone, but you're not alone. You do have help that can, come out to you if you need it.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Texas Real Estate and Finance Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Mills, a North Texas mortgage banker with Service First Mortgage. And if you didn't know already, September is Realtor Safety Month. And here's why that matters. Because according to a recent NAR survey, about 40% of realtors have feared for their personal safety while on the job. And nearly 1 in 5 have actually experienced a situation that made them fear for their life. So that stat alone should get your attention and realize why an episode like this is important. So today we've got a special episode focused around realtor safety, and joining me is Cathy Hickman, and she is an award-winning DFW realtor and co-creator of SafeAgent. And we're going to break down some practical safety workflows and the tech that actually helps you in the field with these issues, and how having a clear safety plan doesn't just protect you, but can also build your client trust and strengthen your business. So, Cathy, thank you for joining me today. How is life treating you this afternoon?
It's fantastic. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be a part of this with you on your podcast.
Yes, absolutely. I love talking about this stuff because it doesn't get focused on a lot, but it is incredibly important. Whether it be
Mhm.
how to safety protocols what you have when you're showing homes, or also just even I think everybody should learn some level of self defense, because when you're dealing with the general public and meeting people that you don't always know. I mean, a lot of times in real estate relationships, you get referred by a friend of a friend, and you usually have some sort of connection, but there's plenty of people that'll reach out on their own and want to talk to you and want to meet up. And vast majority of real estate agents are women, and so when you're out there alone and at a house you've never been to before, in a neighborhood you don't know, and meeting somebody, it can be scary. So this kind of stuff is important, and I think should be focused on a little bit more. Now, obviously, in order to get something rolling like this, I imagine there had to be some sort of I don't want to say an incident, but something that
Yeah.
happened or that you heard about that really kind of solidified in your head that, hey, maybe this is something I need to start thinking about. So what was it that kind of caused you to start moving down this road?
So prior to doing real estate, I actually was a teacher for 20 years. And so when I wanted to transition into real estate, to be, an agent, my husband, who is a former police officer, works for the NFL security and now does corporate security. He made sure, kind of what you're talking about, to kind of prepare me for meeting people you don't know, vacant homes and stuff like that. So
Right.
did the whole like learn pressure points stuff, awareness of your areas, things like that,
Okay.
as well as he even had me take Jiu-Jitsu classes with my son.
Yes.
So
Yes. I think
and
that's a
all of
great
that.
jujitsu is a great thing, because when you look at size and leverage and what you can do compared to someone that's bigger than you,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very it's a very good skill to have if you can have it. And I've actually brought that up to both my wife and my daughter before about going down that road. They don't always listen to me, but I
Mm-hmm.
try.
Oh yeah, definitely. It can definitely some of the biggest gentlemen I've seen in the gym and get taken down by our instructor, who's maybe like 5'3". It's incredible. So
Yeah.
definitely on that aspect. So he had me do all of that, and I felt like I truly was prepared. I was like, okay, I know all of this stuff. I'm married to someone like this, like safety like crazy. So it's going to be great. And for the most part, it really has been. But there were some circumstances that came up that honestly, all of that didn't do anything for me, didn't help me. And I think the biggest one was I actually ended up was going to a vacant house to show a client this new vacant house that just popped up, right? And I go up to the door, and these three gentlemen popped the door open right when I was about to unlock it, and they were like, "The house isn't for sale." And I was thinking, well, it is. I mean, it's on the MLS listing. I was really confused by it. And then they slammed the door in my face. So I was just kind of standing outside the front of the property, just kind of not sure what's going on. My client wasn't there yet. So I was like, okay, well, kind of walked around a little bit. And then they came back out. And when they came out, it was a total unease. I was like, hey, this doesn't feel right. And
Yeah.
so I ended up going to my car, and just kind of sat there for a minute and was watching them. And they were like walking around the property, kind of watching me. And at that point, I was like, okay, they shouldn't be there. And so I ended up having to call the police to come out. And what it was is it was some squatters that had taken residence over the house,
Okay.
without the owner knowing. And so
Right.
after that episode, of course, called my husband, told him everything happened. We really started doing a lot of research, and we realized, like, for agents, there's just not a whole lot out there for us,
Right.
in circumstances, that we walk into on a daily basis. And if I would have had my product safe agent at the time, the minute I felt unease, I could have discreetly just called the police right away and would have been there in a lot faster time period than me waiting, trying to figure things out, and that aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's nerve-wracking for anybody in that situation because you
Hmm.
don't know what to do. And unfortunately, a lot of us, I think we it's not that we're unaware, that folks aren't unaware that something could happen. It's just
Hmm.
when it does happen because your adrenaline kicks in and your fight or flight starts to take over. If you don't have something that you've planned for or some sort of, contingency in that situation, then I'm going to say you panic, but you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what do I do here? And
Hmm.
I think, it's just something that going into it, it's all about kind of being prepared. It's like, well, we don't want the worst thing to happen, right? But at the same
Right.
time, you need to be ready for if it does. And
Mhm.
it's not necessarily a great thing you want to, talk about because it makes people nervous and feel bad. But at the end of the day, you
Yeah.
kind of need to be ready for it, right?
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. Even like on a lot of times the vacant properties, there have been people they'll mention, well, did you miss a sign? Did you, see something that looked off? And honestly, there was nothing wrong with the property. I mean, as far as I walked up to it, it was everything. The lawn was maintained. It wasn't anything off about it. There wasn't any cars in the driveway that would have indicated something was off. From the front area, there was no windows broken, and the
Right.
lockbox was still on. So when you walked up to it, I wouldn't have thought anything different than I'm walking into a vacant
Yeah.
property until literally the door was flung open
So
on me.
having your husband be in law enforcement over the years, I'm
Hmm.
sure this is definitely something that he kind of played a role in, helping you develop and put together.
Hmm.
I'm sorry. You have a dog there?
I do. Oh, sorry. Can you hear him?
Yeah, I was like, "What is there a lawnmower? I don't know what's going on." Is he
I'm
sleeping? He
so
sounds
sorry.
like
I didn't think
he's
of. Yes, he's sleeping. He weighs 220 pounds. He's an English
yes.
Mastiff.
I
So
could
I
hear, I could tell.
apologize.
No, 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 it's okay, it's all right. I was just like, "What is it something that's going on over here for me? I don't know what's happening." Sorry, no, but with him,
No.
with him being in law enforcement, I'm sure he played a role in, kinda helping come up with how this would be put together and
Mhm.
what kind of role did he play when you first did you bring it to him? Did he come to you with this idea, or how did you guys come up with it?
After all kind of that happened, then he started really digging in and do a lot of research. So in his job right now, he deals with the people that work for him actually use panic buttons, and
Okay,
with that, he actually sees a lot of issues with it. Whether his clients forget the panic buttons, or they're not wearing them properly, or they just get left in the car, and so he's realizing that it's just not a really good, like, foolproof system. And
right,
so through his research, what he was realizing, he's looking out there, is that there just wasn't anything that seemed really more foolproof to really help someone. Because even with the panic button, if what he was finding too is that if the perpetrator sees that, they know exactly what it is, and they'll tell you
yeah,
not to push it. And so
right,
that's where it kind of he looked and saw out there that in real estate they actually do sell panic buttons. You can buy them, so
okay,
then you'd have to pay for the device, and then now you have to pay for a subscription. And
right,
so for a lot of agents, that's a lot of extras, that
yeah.
on top of all the other extras that we have to pay for just in order to, do our
Sell real
livelihood. It
estate,
just was
yeah,
yeah, it was a lot of extra, a little too much. And then when you look at it, it just, I mean, I make a joke, but they're not really attractive. It's not something I'm going to want to wear all the time. And for the most part, it's not my daily wear. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to have it on me where I would something that it's with me all the time. And so he was really looking for something to integrate with, well, what is something that I use on a daily basis? And on a daily basis, that's going to be my smartphone and my smartwatch.
Yeah.
And so that's what he was looking for, something. So I wouldn't be in the habit of forgetting it
Right.
was the big deal.
Right.
So
Okay. So tell us then, how does SafeAgent work? What's the, what's the mechanism? How do you guys monitor it? Like, what's the, generally, how does it function?
So what it is just it's a wireless panic alert system that is actually an app that you download onto your your smartphone.
Okay.
And so when you book an appointment through like Showing Time or Broker Bay, it actually will sync it up to the app. And so the app knows kind of your schedule for wherever you're going for the day. So once I show up to an appointment, on my phone, it actually will pop up with a little like reminder, like, "Hey, you need to check in. You need to check in," and you'll open up the app, and you can push a big green button saying, "I'm here."
Hmm.
Um, and once you do that, what then is another text message will pop up, and it sends it to whoever you want your Mercy contacts, whoever you want it to be sent to. But then it sends your actual location. So for me, it'll send my location to my 19-year-old son and my husband, my
Okay.
exact location, what time I've arrived, and then I'm actually there. And so once you're at the property, you just go and show the property like you normally would, and the app will interact with your smartwatch. So I also have a button on my smartwatch that if I needed to in a panic, I can actually push that on my smartwatch, the panic button. Or if I don't have my watch, I can actually push it on my phone,
Hmm.
and it's a nice big red button. Or you can you also on the iPhones you have those on the side, the little buttons on the side, action
Hmm.
items. You can actually use that too. And what it does is it will send an immediate alert to our monitoring service system that works 24 hours a day.
Okay.
And what they'll do is they'll immediately text you asking you if this is real or did you accidentally do it. If you don't respond, they call you immediately within 30 seconds. If you don't answer the phone call, it's immediately then sent over dispatched to the police department, and the police will be dispatched to your live GPS location. As soon as you don't answer after about a month. After
Right.
that, 30 seconds to that minute time period. Yeah.
Okay. And do you guys charge is it a subscription fee, or is it a one-time, like, how do y'all set that up?
So it is a subscription fee. It's just that you can do it month to month. If you decide to do it for the year, you do obviously save some money.
Yeah.
What we did is we had it to where you actually sign up online, because what we found is if you sign up through the app programs, they actually charge you quite a bit more, and we didn't want to put that cost onto our clients. And also, if you do it through the app system, it actually saves all their personal information, where if you sign up online, we don't save any of their personal information or any of actually the data that you collect on your showings and things like that. That actually is
Right.
all of your data, and you get to keep it all.
Gotcha.
So, but it's month to month. It's $9.99 a month
Okay.
for you to have just peace of mind when you're out there showing those properties.
That's less than a Starbucks coffee, so I think
I know
it's
it, right?
fairly reasonable to be sure. And especially when you do it on an annual basis, you probably save a little bit more than that, and it's helpful for you.
Hmm. Yeah.
Do you guys find, when users are on it, do you feel like you run into any issues with people actually registering that they're at their locations and doing that thing, or is it pretty self-intuitive that it reminds you to do that when you're going out and showing?
It's a great question. It actually is. It reminds you. So once you roll up within 500 feet of the property, your phone starts going off already.
Gotcha.
It's
Okay.
already like sending you like a message. Hey, you need to check in. And if you ignore it, which we all do. It'll pop back up. It continues to do that until you actually check into the device. So that's what's great is that a lot of times we show up to the property, and then maybe you're pulling your notes and your whatever else you're trying to get together for your client gets there, and it may not be that top of mind, but it keeps reminding you need to do it. And then it's just as easy, and it's an easy just tap. And even if you don't want to do it on your phone, you can tap on your watch as you're walking up to the door,
Right.
and then you're checked in and ready to go.
And did you say, and I may have missed because I think you said something about it, but is it directly linked to the showing service that you use to schedule the appointment, or do you have to set that up or do it every time, or how's that work?
That's a great question too. So once you schedule your showings through Showing Time or Broker Bay, then what it does is it actually those apps actually automatically sync with your calendar, and
Okay,
then Safe Agent then actually syncs with all of your calendar invites, and so then it
gotcha.
brings it in there. And what's also good is it actually looks for keywords that we use in real estate. So
Okay.
it's not going to sync your entire calendar. It's not going to be like, oh, you have a doctor's appointment or anything like that. It literally is
Hey, you
geared
might need it.
towards.
You never know,
I
depending on where you're going to
know.
go
Very
to.
true.
Yeah.
Very true. But it does look for keywords, showing, confirmed, open house, things like that. So then that way, the my safe agent will pull it into their app, into our app, and then you're able to use it.
Okay. And then how many contacts does it let you put down as your, because you mentioned you have your husband and your son. Is there a limit to that, or can you put as many as you want? I mean, obviously you don't want to alert 500 people when you're doing a showing,
Right.
but how do you determine, how many people they connect?
You can put as many as you want, honestly. I mean, if you wanted to put like 20, you really could. Yeah. So I just, for me, I just put obviously my husband, and then funny enough, my 19-year-old son, he's real funny about stuff. And so he actually loves my alerts. So, he's at college at Texas A&M. And when I'm out showing, he'll get an alert, and I'll get a thumbs up, or he'll text me later, Mom, how was the showing? So for him, and he actually told me later on, he goes, because Mom, it just gives me peace of mind, because at least I know when you're out showing properties, I know where you're at, and I know that you're taken care of. So
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
him, he loves that. So it's kind of funny on how I feel like now he's tracking me, but he's not.
Have you guys, or do you, ever, when you're bringing it up to, or not bringing it up, but have you ever brought it up to buyers or even sellers when you're going on maybe a listing appointment or something like that? Is there any benefit in some cases with people that obviously you're not going to tell the strangers, but with people that do you feel like it offers any other level of peace of mind for them too? Or, has that situation ever come up?
It hasn't come up, but I really do feel like it does offer a peace of mind also for my clients, because, you can be in any type of situation. And another situation I was in, this is a while ago, but my client and I, he's an investor. We were looking at these beautiful homes. And while we were in the property, we heard gunshots going off.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, it would have been nice at that time if we had safe agent. I could have easily, call the police, let them know this is going on. I don't know where it was, but we heard it close enough, and so it would have been nice to be able to do that. Obviously, my client, I said, you know what, let's just go ahead and leave, and so we locked up and left. But it would have been a really nice, comforting thing to say, hey, don't worry, I can call the police very quickly and get someone out here for us to help us if need be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough because, especially nowadays as the market shifts, we were in a, crazy frenzy for a very long time with buyers and sellers, and you would have multiple showings at a listing and people coming and going all the time, and now that's kind of subsided quite a bit. I wonder, from your point of view, do you think this becomes a greater issue when there is a lot of activity because there's so many different people, or is it a bigger issue when it's slower because there's less activity and more likely to not have as many people around, and therefore create a better opportunity for someone that would have any inkling to do something like this?
I feel like honestly, the slower it is, it's actually a better opportunity for someone who wants to commit a crime. Because then,
Right.
like you said, there's not anyone really around to watch it. There's more opportunity for them. Unfortunately, in our industry, we're a very predictable lifestyle. If you think about it, I mean, my name, my number, my brokerage, everything is
Everywhere.
posted all over the internet.
Yep.
You can find me if you want to find me pretty easy, whether it's my listings, open houses, events I'm going to. So if you are really, unfortunately, a perpetrator or someone like that, I'm a very predictable person. You can actually
Yeah.
track out what I'm going to be doing, not on a day to day, but you can get a pretty good idea. And so I feel like as things slow down, I feel like it actually is even a better thing for us as agents, just because we have that, added peace of mind that we're not alone. You may
Yeah.
feel like you're alone, but you're not alone. You do have help that can, come out to you if you need it.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things, I teach, I do classes on, using AI inside real estate. And I have several classes that I teach on that. And we also talk a lot about, social media and how to use it effectively and things of that nature. And one of the things that I run into from time to time when I talk to agents, because we joke about being what I call a secret agent, where you're a
Hmm.
realtor, but if I were to look you up on the internet, I can't find you. You're nowhere to be found, right? Or only in
Right.
a very few spots. And for business sake, right, that's not a good thing,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
especially these days with the younger generation, the Gen Zs and millennials, even if they get because there people say, well, I work off referral. It's like, well, okay, great,
Hmm.
that's awesome. But
Yeah.
when your best friend from high school, who's in her 50s or 40s or whatever, and she recommends you to her 20-year-old kid, or their nephew or whatever, and they're 25, yeah, you have the recommendation, but the first thing they're going to go do is look you up online, and they're going to try to find
Hmm.
you, right? That's what they do. That's what
Yeah.
I do. Anytime I meet
Yeah.
somebody or get a new client or whatever, I'm like, okay, who's this, right?
Exactly.
We
Hmm.
all do that. And so
Hmm.
as a professional in real estate, it is critical that you do have your information available, that people can find you, because that's how you get business and that's how you maintain and stay in front of people. But on the safety aspect, and this is where I was saying where I run into it, is agents will tell me like, oh, I don't want my information everywhere because I don't want people to know, how to find me because I don't feel safe. And it's like, I mean, I understand that rationale for sure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a difficult one to have if you're going to be in sales, right? Of any
Hmm.
capacity. And so, having something like this to where you could say, okay, yes, you need to be out there and do that, but here's an avenue, to try to keep yourself so you don't necessarily have to worry. It doesn't mean it's not a risk, because
Right.
existing in the world is a risk. You drive on the road in your car, to your doctor's appointment, that's a risk, right? There's always
Hmm.
risks. But it's just, how can you mitigate the risks and bring them down as much as possible? And I think that's the key to most everything. um
Hmm.
when you're talking to agents about this, and even brokerages, are you finding, or are you guys reaching out to brokers themselves to say, hey, look, this isn't just something that we think your agents should do, but I mean, obviously it's a business and we want to sell things, but at the same time, if I was a broker running a shop, especially the smaller ones these days, I would want to know that just for liability and all kinds of other reasons, that my agents were
Yeah.
protected when they were out there in the field. Do y'all have a lot of conversations around that?
We do. We do. We actually do try to talk to a lot of brokers as much as we can, just to educate them on it, and to, share what it does, how it actually, can help all of their agents. And, we get a lot of, we have in my brokerage, we have a lot of really new, young, like 22, 23 year old fantastic agents that I look back and I'm like, I wish I would have started then. Y'all are so smart, adorable agents. And so, it's nice to be able to talk to these brokers that have been doing it for years and years and years, but still, they stress that importance for safety, to even our young agents, and putting things in place to help them as well, because they're not gonna have as much of experience as someone who's been doing it 40 years. And so
Yeah.
being able to, share that experience with them, but also kind of on their level too, with all the technology. They can do technology faster than most of us, and so, it's something easy for them to use, type of thing.
Yeah, when you're at a certain age, you think you're invincible, and you never consider
Yeah.
the risks and things. I experience that on a daily basis driving around with my teenagers in the car. It's like I feel like I've lost more hair, if that's possible, just being stressed out because they're not concerned about the car that's 6 inches away from them in the corner, but
Hmm.
because they're like, yeah, I'm gonna live
Yeah.
forever. It's not a problem. That's
Right.
where the age and wisdom kick in for sure. So
Hmm.
are you feeling like, when you guys look at yourselves compared to other, because obviously there are things that exist in the market
Oh yeah.
that
Hmm.
do similar things, but like you mentioned in the beginning, with the wearables and stuff, where are you seeing, ultimately that you guys start to differentiate yourself from what's already available, to,
Hmm.
the differences that you have, as far as your product goes?
So a couple of things that makes us completely different is one is that it is a completely run AI software that is behind all of it. So it's constantly within the system, it's constantly checking, making sure things are running accurately. If there's a issue that comes up, it's catching it right away. So really keeping the actual program up and running, to the best of its ability. The second thing is the watch integration. Right now, there's nothing out there that actually integrates with your smart watch. And so that's kind of our two piece. And the last part is really the discrete part. So you can honestly hit the button, whether it's on your watch or the action items on your phone, and nobody knows. So even if I hit the button and I get that text message asking if it's a mistake,
Mhm.
most people don't, as agents, we get text messages and calls all the time when we're showing property. So it's not going to seem off if that happened. And then if it goes to a phone call, again, it's not going to seem off because, again, as an agent, that stuff happens quite a bit where you show. So if you really did need to use the service, and it goes up to the level that police need to be dispatched to you, it's still a discreet thing. Which in any type of situation when you're like that, the big thing is
Yeah.
you don't want to make it worse. You actually are trying to keep it at a lower, or I guess a lower level of where you're at, and not
You're
try
not
to,
trying to
I
draw
guess,
attention to the
instigate.
fact that you're calling the cops. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
There you go.
yes.
You got it for me.
Yes, yes. It's not
Mhm.
something you want to tell them, "Hey, look, you," because then
No.
things escalate from there. You want to sneak it by them.
Right, exactly, exactly. So it's those three folds that you're going to find, and also it's already in the devices we carry all the time. So you're just paying a subscription basis. There's no extras. There's no add-ons. There's nothing else extra that you have to add to it to make it work, which is nice
Right.
too.
You're not worried about adding hardware and it breaking and having to order another
Hmm.
one and then getting those pieces
Right.
and having to make your pendant look like it's something that isn't a panic
Hmm.
device. From what was it, the old life alerts? Falling and you
Yeah. Oh
can't get up,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
lady, the
Uh
old
huh.
lady laying on the ground.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
if you can steer clear of that, ideally, because you're trying to be discreet about it, that's the idea.
Hmm.
Obviously, that's a better thing, and having it integrated with, that I it's funny because that applies across all spectrums as far as like making things easy. It's as simple
Yeah.
as simple stuff like I talk a lot about CRMs. People using their
Hmm.
databases and reaching out to clients, and how to automate those things. And a lot of times, either agents don't have CRMs at all, or they don't use the ones that they do have, simply because the amount of steps that it takes for them to set things
Yeah.
up, they don't want to mess with, and or maybe they
Right.
do, but they never make time to do it. They never spend the
Hmm.
time going through it and trying to figure it out. And so having it to where it syncs with your calendar and it's your AI is looking for those keywords. So it reminds you when you do that. It's like having your little personal safety person on your shoulder going, "Hey, don't forget to,"
Yeah.
it's like all the time because
Yeah.
we need that because you don't think about it. Your mind's in 100 different
Hmm.
places and you're considering, a million, what am I going to say to this buyer, this seller? How am I going to approach this? Where's this house? You're thinking about all this other stuff. You're not thinking about your safety until
Hmm.
that moment happens. And then having somebody just, in your ear occasionally or on your phone,
Hmm.
reminding you, "Hey, this is important." You're like, "Okay, yeah, 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 I'll take care of that." I mean, that's huge because
Yeah.
we just, as human beings, we're creatures of habit, and if we're not in the habit of doing that or creating that, then we don't.
Right, right. And just kind of going back to that ease of use, like once you go onto the website and you sign up for it, it's literally like a four-step process. It's nothing.
Yeah.
And then after you do that, it'll tell you to download the companion app on your smart phone. And then
Mhm.
after that, you log in, you're ready to go. That's what's so
Yeah.
great is once you've downloaded it onto the phone, it automatically just starts working right away. So if you got it today and you've got like 3 showings tonight and you've got it downloaded on your phone, it's instantly going to be ready to go. So that's what's also nice too. There's no thought process behind it. It's doing all that thinking, like you said with the AI, the thinking for you. So it's one less thing I gotta worry about than when you're pulling up. All right, is this Supra or is this the code? Which one? Which one I got to do to get into the house today? Type
Yes,
of thing.
yes. I'm curious. So when you guys are presenting this to brokers and stuff too, are you, with your husband's background in the law enforcement side of things, are y'all also doing anything along the lines of, helping them identify certain protocols when it comes to, safety, uh, uh, ways to, vet clients ahead of time, ways to, protect yourself before you're going to, have y'all designed or built anything that kind of helps agents and brokers kind of put together? It's not really an action plan necessarily, but maybe best
Mhm.
practices or something along those lines.
We always talk about this is not just it's kind of everything together. You
Right.
can't just have one thing and it works perfectly. You got to have all the pieces. And so, we always talk about, yes, once you get your client, I mean, we've got, like forewarns, a perfect thing. You can go ahead and look up information on somebody. If you don't know this person yet, go ahead and pull information that way. We always encourage them, prior to showing a property, if you don't know this person, meet them either at your office or at a central location that's publicly there's it's a public location like Starbucks or something like
Right.
that. Get to know the person, and it as a real estate agent actually is even better. You're just building more of that camaraderie with the client, so then they know you and they trust you, and then obviously they're going to want to use you moving forward. We also share that when you do show up to the property, once you check in, you still want to get out and you still want to kind of just look around the property, see if anything's off. Because if it is off or you think it's off, don't even bother showing it. Um, it's better to walk away than to try to figure out like what's going on. But then, once you've done kind of all of those initial, kind of prerequisites, I guess, before you show a property, then when you're there, now you've got your safe agent that is there if something does arise while you're there, whether with a client or it could be a vacant house, or even while you could be sitting waiting for your client to get there, and something could be suspicious and off-putting, and
Right.
so you have that action item on your my safe agent app to help you.
Okay, so you'll have those. You have kind of like a checklist when you're rolling up to tell you the things to make sure that you check before you go in. So it's a little bit. It gives you some stuff to handle while you're there.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just that kind of that whole like the whole. I guess what he always says, like looking at your surroundings and paying
Yes.
attention to what's going on.
Yeah, I think I heard. I don't remember. I'm trying to remember if this was a good or a bad thing, but someone had talked about, and because I've seen a couple things on this before about like when you go into a property, obviously know your exits essentially, like where
Mhm.
you can get out from, and then make sure those are unlocked. So, but then it was kind of like it was a balance of, do I want to unlock all the doors so I can get out quickly, or but then that also allows someone else, if they're working in tandem, to get in. So it's like which one's the better situation, to be able to escape if you need to, or to not
Mhm.
let anybody access, so there's no other entry points that you're not conscious of. I don't know, have y'all discussed anything like that?
The main one has always been, and my husband's always like stressed that when you are going to go show a property, he's like, you always unlock the door and then you always let the client in before you. So you walk in behind the client. Number one, it's more respectful anyways, but also, you're not, you're also kind of walking in behind them to help at any
Right.
type of situation. And then he'll have me, if the lights aren't on, I'll switch on the light, but I'll actually will kind of walk my way through to where I know where the back door is while I'm turning on the lights. That's kind of my first beeline. Make sure that's unlocked as well, and then kind of and go from there. So he's always said it's just better to go ahead and have them both unlocked and making sure where, like you said, where everything is at,
Yeah.
and you can do that really quickly as you're walking in the property
Yeah.
with the clients.
Yeah. Well, it's tough because it's not something that you want to, um it's not something that you want to consider all the time, right? Like it's
No.
not a fun thing to think about, but it is necessary. And like you said, having that app there to remind you to check in, to remind you to, giving you a checklist of protocols to follow before you go in there, that always at least keeps it top of mind. And the constant reminder is going to help make it more of a focus of what you're doing. And even, you know, I would say, and I'd say this, but you hear a lot of times about folks that run into, whether it be kidnappings or whatever, they say it's always somebody that more often than it's somebody that you don't, and so
Yeah.
people think,
Yeah.
oh, well, I'm going to go meet this person. I know who they are. I'm not saying that they're dangerous. I'm just saying that that's not necessarily a situation where it doesn't need to be a priority, especially when you look at the
Mhm.
statistics of when people go missing, and they find out what happened. That's typically where it comes from.
Right. No, that is a perfect statement because it's very true, and I think that's what unfortunately a lot of us as agents we're like, well, I've known this person forever, or it's a close family friend of a friend, or something to where you feel a lot more comfortable than maybe a stranger. But you're absolutely right when you look at the stats; those are the people that if they're going to commit a crime against you, or is someone who actually does know you, and so that's even when I'm stressing, with my Save Agent. That's why it's still a fantastic product, whether this is someone you've known for years. You never know if, I hate to say it, they just have a bad day or just something's off. I mean, you're not in somebody's head. And so you don't know what's really going on back behind there. And so, um, that's one thing criminals will do. They'll try to get to know you really well and earn your trust. And then, you could be putting yourself in a situation that obviously you don't want to be put into.
Yeah, because you let your guard down and you're not expecting
Mhm.
anything. And but again, you don't have to because it's going to remind you when you roll in there, even if
Right.
it's even if it's someone. But the point being is just even if you know them, go ahead and still keep it on because you
Hmm.
can never be too safe. To some extent, I think you can
Right.
always
Hmm.
cover yourself. I do think it's great. You had talked to me earlier before we got on the show about how much peace of mind this has given your son, especially
Hmm.
because he's protective or whatever. But talk a little bit about
Yeah.
not just the agents aspect of it, but also the people closest to them that can have a little bit of peace of mind with this as well.
Oh yeah, what I'm finding is that what it's funny, but a lot of the people that are close to the agents that are using it and they get those little text messages, what they absolutely love is they actually do like to know where you're at. And so I can sit there all day and try to share my calendar or hey, I've got all these showings today, but they really don't understand maybe where you're going or headed. And as you know, as an agent, I can be like, oh, I'm going to go show house A. You drive up and your client's like, no. Okay, well then he's like, but I like that one right down the street. Can we make an appointment? So then you've got to quickly cancel that one, make another one. Well, if you shared your calendar with your family members, they don't know that you just changed locations because
Yeah,
that's just a new one that just popped up.
right.
Well, with Safe Agent, it actually picks it up. So once I cancel and I reschedule it, then Safe Agent will actually pick up that new one right away. And then once you go and you check in there, then they've got another update of, you're at a different location. So what we're finding is, a lot of those emergency contacts, they just love it because they're able to, just make sure that they know where you're at. But my husband also says, it's just nice to know you actually arrived safely. Just
Yeah,
driving to the location because there's a lot of agents they'll drive all over and it may be really far from they live and from where they live, and so it's nice that okay, yes, they did arrive at that that house that's
yeah.
40 minutes from where we live right now.
Yeah, or even
So.
bad weather, traffic, car
Hmm.
accidents, whatever. If you're expected to arrive at a certain time and you haven't, then someone's paying
Hmm.
attention at that point because they're like, "Hey, wait a minute, she was supposed to be there 30 minutes ago. Why is she not there?" And
Hmm.
start asking those questions. So I mean, it's all around. It's just good to have the awareness. It's good to have the awareness for you. It's good to have the awareness for your friends and family. It's
Hmm.
just bringing it again, like I said, top of mind, so it's always there for you. So it's something that you pay attention to, and it's not something that just goes by the wayside because it happens so infrequently. But
Yeah.
I think enough. There's just in the stat that I read in the very beginning, there's been enough people that it's happened to that it should be something that's more focused on and discussed and paid attention to. But it's the other 75% of the people that it never happens to. And they're just like, oh, I'll be fine. I'm not worried about it. Like I feel good, so no big deal. But it
Hmm.
happens, and it happens more frequently than you think. And it shouldn't just go by the wayside because it's a pain in the butt to carry a pendant around or whatever the case may be, right?
Right. I know it. I know. For
I'm
sure.
curious. So you mentioned just on the safety realm, you mentioned jujitsu. Or do you do jujitsu?
I don't anymore. I did for a
Okay.
while.
Okay.
I had this
So
idea I was going to compete in a tournament.
oh, I love it. I love it. So tell me, what was your experience like with that? I mean, I know obviously you're not doing it now, but did you feel like there were some key things that you learned that you could still take advantage of? And do you feel like it is something that, and again, this kind of stuff is always looked at like meathead dudes like me that get into it, and
Yeah.
women are like, I'm not, that's all sweaty and wrestly and I don't want my ears, whatever. But
Yeah.
do you think that that is a fruitful effort for someone that is looking to, or is there another type of physical self-defense that you think would be
Mhm.
more beneficial?
I actually I loved it. Partly, it was actually probably the hardest. If you're looking for a really hard cardio workout, that's a killer.
Yeah,
So on that aspect of it, it was fun because it's something completely different than what you normally would do. But what I also did love is it did teach you like techniques and holds and things like that. So which was nice because if you think about it, if you were going to get jumped, it actually teaches you ways to get out of it and not to
right,
actually make it worse and get in. You can actually make it worse and get it tighter or whatever the case may be on you. So for me, I felt like it was very beneficial, just to teach me some of these techniques, of how to actually get out of something. If I were to get jumped or, someone comes up behind me, what can I
right,
actually do?
right.
So I thought it was great, but I do get it though, because it's, you are rolling around and all in the ground and stuff like that. But I encourage anyone, male or female, any type of classes you can take for self defense. I always think is fantastic because you just having that in the back of your mind of, if something were to happen, what can I do, to get out of this and to get away from it type of thing. It's always
Yeah.
good to have just that additional information on you.
Yeah. Well, and it's from what I understand, I've never practiced it myself. I watch a lot of it, but
Hmm.
it's very much a leverage uh you know activity, defense, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
where your size doesn't always necessarily matter,
Hmm.
in being able to escape or being able to, get somebody in a position where you can at least get away from them to some extent. So, when you take out and it is something, unfortunately, but this is the case with any type of physical self defense, is if you don't practice it, if you don't do it on a
Hmm.
regular basis, it doesn't become, that muscle memory thing where your body reacts in the situation. And so it's like, you go to one self-defense class, you might learn some techniques, but when the situation actually presents itself, is your brain that's in panic, flight, or flight mode going to remember, what that
Right.
thing was, because you haven't ever done it before? And so there is a
Hmm.
certain level of importance where, just to have, and I would say, for anybody, anyone, when you're in situations where you're maybe not the biggest or the strongest or like I have a benefit, which I'm sure your husband does well. Like I'm a pretty tall guy, I'm pretty big, so I don't have too many people that are going to necessarily even try to do anything, because it's just like,
Yeah.
not take my route on that one. But so I've never been, or I haven't been confronted with those situations very often. But when you're in maybe a more vulnerable position, when you're smaller, you're a female or whatever, then people think there's opportunity there. And so just having a skill that, like you said, it gives you good cardio workout. You got
Yeah.
a good go there. It's not great getting sweaty and rolling around with people, but I'm sure you can find a lot of times other women in the class that are participating as well.
Yeah.
But doing it on a regular basis is helpful, because then in those situations, if that were to occur, your body goes into oh, I know how to do this, I remember this, without you having to think about it. And that's where the benefit of
Hmm.
having those extra reps, for lack of a better word, is beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because if you, like you said, you learn it the one time and if you don't ever practice or do anything with it, it doesn't stick like
Yeah.
you want it to. And then the more you practice it and go over and over it, then it does become that muscle memory type of thing. And so it makes it, if the situation were to arise, you wouldn't go into panic mode and be like, oh, what do I do? You would instantly kind of know what you need to do next to get out
Yeah,
of
because you've
that
done it 100
situation.
times. Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's a good point. I mean, the folks that do carry stuff around, whether it be, I mean, whether it be guns or knives or
Yeah.
pepper spray or whatever, although there was a friend of mine who was a military vet, and he because there's certain levels of pepper spray that you buy that
Yeah.
are, not allowed because of their potency or whatever. But
Hmm.
apparently bear spray is okay.
Oh,
And bear
wow.
spray is pretty intense, but because it's called bear spray, you can carry it, and it's just as bad as some of the other stuff. But again, and he's got two daughters and his wife, and like they carry switchblades. I mean, it's a whole thing. But
Yeah.
which to me, I'm like, okay, tell me more about this. I got a daughter of
Oh,
mine.
that's great.
Um, but but to your point, though, the issue with some of those things is, going back to the practicing other stuff, is that if you don't regularly if you don't know how to use it because you never have, because yeah, you may get the spray in the mail and it shows up, but if you don't use it or have used it before and know how to pull the tab off and do whatever, then you don't know if you can in that moment. You might end up spraying yourself. And then same thing with the knife, I mean, like you said, sometimes that could cause more harm than good, because if they don't have a weapon and now you have a weapon and they can get that weapon from you, now they can use that against you.
Yeah.
So it's not always, not always in the best interest. And then we all know the issues with guns, especially if you don't practice using it on a regular basis and have a good knowledge of how to handle the weapon, then it's not usually a good idea to be carrying it around,
Mhm.
because of a whole host of problems. So, I can completely understand, how we may think that, well, if I carry something, I feel a little bit safer. And it's like, well, if you know how to use it, maybe, but if you don't, then it could probably cause more harm than good. And then again, bringing it back to what you guys are doing, just having one extra layer of protection just to let other people know that you could be in possible danger, can mitigate all of those issues by themselves.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's a it like I said, it's something that I think, it needs to be more on the forefront. I'm glad we have, the month of September, I suppose, to, make it at least some level of awareness. But curious, how long have y'all had this up and going?
So we've had the app up and going for a little over a month and a half.
Okay.
But we had been working on it for well over a year, like
Yeah, it
working
takes a
on
little
all
time.
the research. Yeah, but we've been
Yeah.
up for about a month and a half.
Yeah.
So,
And they go directly to your site to download the app instead of going through like the iTunes store, or, whatever. If you're using an Android, because you're from another planet, then, whatever the store is that they have. Um,
right. Yes.
but
Yes.
that's where they get it from. They don't download it from the iTunes, because then again, they get all the information and keep it there. And you prefer to go
Mhm.
that route with it as well, right?
Yes, yeah. You'll just go to mysafeagent.ai and then you'll, sign up from there. And we actually have three different plans, depending on kind of what your needs are,
Okay.
or what you would prefer. And then you pick the plan that you want, and then you sign the waiver, and then you put your your credit card information, and then that's it. And then you've signed up, and then it'll tell you to download it onto your phone, and then you just download it and use that same login and password, and I mean, you're ready to go.
That's awesome. Do y'all have any features that you're, developing or working on that you want to add to it later that you haven't quite gotten there yet, just because you just got it off the ground?
But we actually on the app right now, we actually have a couple of features on there. I don't think people are very familiar with, but the first one is actually there's a crime data app that's put out from the FBI.
Okay.
So if you are going to show a property, whatever area that is, you actually can tell you to give you the crime data on it, which is fantastic. I actually show it a lot to my clients because you do get that question like, how safe is the area?
Yeah.
Well, you can actually show them the stats from the FBI and give them that information, and then they can decide on their own, if this is an area that they would, prefer to possibly live in or not live in or invest in, type thing. So you've got that information as well. And then we also have it's called a prep detail. And so once the appointment's made and synced into the my safe agent, you actually can push that button and it actually gives you all of this background information on the actual property you're showing. It actually can show you like what are some of the comparables in the area.
Oh,
Again,
wow.
it'll pull in that crime data and things like that. That as an agent prepping before you go to the showing, you can
Yeah.
actually use that to kind of give you a quick reference just to refresh your memory before you actually walk into that home.
Wow. Well, that's awesome. Well, Cathy, I can't thank you enough for chatting with me about this. I really do. I think people should definitely check it out. If you don't have anything, then you need to get something. You
I
don't want to
agree.
walk in naked, as it would be, but you,
Mm-hmm.
you definitely need to have something so you can keep yourself protected. Because these days, I mean, look, with all the recent event, we're all swimming in chaos, man. This place is, it's nuts. I'm sure everybody that's lived at a certain time in their life has felt like things are going crazy all the time, but it just seems like we're a little extra right now, with all the things happening in the world. So, keeping yourself safe, and for yourself and for your loved ones, making sure
Mm-hmm.
that they know what you're up to and where you're at, to make sure that these things don't happen, I think is paramount. And especially in an industry like real estate, where you're, often meeting people that you've never met before and going into strange situations and places that you're not familiar. all of that plays a huge role in giving people opportunity
Mhm.
to do nefarious things. And as much as you can protect yourself against that, I think it's great. So before we roll out one more time, just go ahead and let everybody know the website. Let them know where they can find you if they have any questions. We'll obviously put all your information in the show notes. So if anybody wants to reach out and go through the site, they can absolutely do that also.
Fantastic. Yeah, you can sign up at mysafeagent.ai. And then my name is Cathy Hickman. You can find me on all the socials, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out on any of those socials. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions that you have. And, anything you guys need, just let me know.
There you go. $9.99 a month at the most. I
Yep,
think that's more than cheap enough to at least have a little bit of a safety net there. So don't
absolutely.
skimp on your safety, right?
That's right.
That's right. All right. Well, I hope everybody has a great weekend. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll be back with a market update this week. Talk about how somehow the Fed cut rates, but mortgage rates went up. What that's doing to affordability in housing, and how gold is going bananas, and why. So tune in for that. We'll chat about that a little bit. Otherwise, everybody have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in, and of course, thank you, Cathy, for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate it a lot.